He's Metz. He's Tass. It's the Metzger Tassoul Show.
Tass.
Oh, there we go. I couldn't unmute.
Well,
Perry was controlling my mute button.
That's
How we doing?
Come true right there, buddy.
Oh, yeah, right on.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. So
Good.
Let's get some viewers. Perry's going to share this to the 25 sites. Oh, man.
You feeling all right?
No, I'm sore, I'm tired, and I have a headache. But other than that, I feel pretty good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Anything else wrong?
No, other than that, I'm great.
You're all right. Good for you, man.
Thanks,
It's a good color. It's a good color on you.
You like the blue?
Yeah, it's nice.
Thanks.
I think you wore that last week.
I wore it 2 days ago, actually. It wasn't even last week. Anyway,
we're going to talk about women in the martial arts. Probably one of the biggest differences about women and men in the martial arts. We wear the same stuff all the time, and I think they change their stuff up all the time.
That's right. That is the topic today. The wardrobes.
Right on.
Hello, Mr. Johnson.
Hey, sir.
Yeah, we're going to talk about women in the martial arts industry, and we'll talk about why we're talking about this topic. And we have 3 women joining us today on the show, and we're going to bring them in a second. And we're going to have some dialogue because I think there's a stigma maybe that the martial arts industry is a male-dominated industry, but that may be accurate. It may be male-dominated, right? If you look and see how many practitioners, how many men compared to women, right? We talk about, in karate or taekwondo, I think it's a children-dominated industry. I think there's more kids training in the martial arts or in those kind of styles than, and so this is all about women in the martial arts industry. All these women are extremely successful in their own right. And I think it's a good topic to talk about today. So let's bring in our guests. So first, who do I want to bring in first? First, let's bring in Miss Cris Rodriguez. Everybody, give Miss Cris Rodriguez a round of applause.
Oh, there she is.
So, hello, Miss Cris. So, I can allow them to do their own introductions, but the reason why I wanted to have Miss Cris Rodriguez on is not only is she a school owner, she owns a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school in Tampa, but she's our digital marketing specialist for MAIA, but she also owns and runs a digital marketing agency, the GrowPro agency. There it is, right there. So I want to bring everybody on. That's just a slow introduction. Then I'd like them to talk a little bit about themselves. So go ahead. We'll wait. Go ahead, grab that.
Thank you.
No
Hello. Yeah. No, she's on. We got her. Okay.
Now let's bring in Miss Rachel Anouthai. Everybody, Miss Rachel Anouthai.
Hey.
How's it going?
How are you, ma'am? Miss Anouthai is a very successful school owner, and I wanted to have her on because, yes, Cris is a school owner, but also bringing her on as somebody who runs a digital marketing agency for this industry. And Miss Anouthai is strictly and solely right now a school owner and a very successful school owner. And we're going to talk more about that in a minute. And then last but not least, I want to bring on Miss Stefanie Conner. And why do I want to bring on Miss Stefanie Conner? Miss Stefanie Conner. Because Miss Stefanie Conner is I would say, a high-level executive in our company in Championship Martial Arts. So she's not an owner. She doesn't own her own agency in the martial arts industry, but she was a student who worked her way up in our company as a high-level executive in our company, out of, for example, a male-dominated industry. But it's Miss Conner sitting at the table. It's not Mr. Conner sitting at the table, which I think is important for people to know. So before we go, I would love this to be inspiring, obviously, for women school owners. I'd want this to be inspiring for women in our industry that may have a different company that helps contribute to this industry, which Cris is going to be very relatable. And I also want to inspire any women that may be watching this show, whether you are a student, an assistant instructor, a program director, and I'm hoping Miss Conner can inspire some of the ladies, young girls, or women on here. So with that, Cris, why don't you just tell us a little bit about you and what you've accomplished in this so-called male-dominated industry, and we don't believe in that stigma. You three ladies, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started martial arts when I was 8 years old and knew from that first day this is what I wanted to do, and worked up my way through the ranks and got to the Black Belt Club and the Masters Club. And then I turned 15. And in the state of Florida, when you're 15, you can start officially getting paid. And they were looking for an assistant instructor. I was the teen that showed up early. Can I scrub the toilets? Can I scrub the sinks? What can I do to help? Can I vacuum? And they were looking to hire an assistant instructor. And I thought, man, I'm a shoo-in for this. I had been training there for 6-7 years. And they ended up reaching out. I'll never forget his name, Brett Ross. He was no longer training at the school. He was bagging groceries at Publix. And they reached out to him to see if he would be interested in the assistant instructor position. I was crushed at that moment. And it was at that moment that I realized I don't need to work for somebody else in this industry. I'm going to go open my own school and work for myself. So, being in first the Taekwondo world and then shifting over to the BJJ world, which has a very different culture than what I was used to. When I was doing BJJ in the late 90s and early 2000s, I was the only girl on the mat. And this is something that I'm sure, the other ladies on here will attest to, that when you're in class, you're typically not the majority. But for me, it never slowed me down. It never made me not want to do it. So I opened up Gracie Pack in 2012. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. We're a BJJ and an MMA academy. And about 3 years ago, I launched Grow Pro, and we help martial arts school owners gain more students. So it's kind of a little bit of history of, where I started and where I'm at today, and some of the challenges that I went through growing up in a quote unquote male dominated industry.
Go
ahead,
one of the things that I want all of you to speak on is, what was it that inspired you to get into martial arts in the first place?
Yeah, it's a great question. It was my mom, actually. She did judo in the Bronx growing up, and she would always tell me these cool stories about tossing boys on their head and doing hip tosses. And I was like, man, that sounds like a lot of fun. I want to do that. So it was actually a woman, my mother, that inspired me to get into the martial arts.
Awesome.
Very cool. Miss Anouthai, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? And by the way, just your success and as a lady that runs a school there, and successful school, why'd you get in martial arts? What inspired you, and how did you get to the level that you're at?
Right. So when I began my training actually a year after my husband and I had started our martial arts school. So we began our martial arts school in 2003. My husband had a desire to do the martial arts since he was super young, 5 years old, back in his country. He moved here to the United States in 1983, was training in different schools in different areas that he lived in. When we got married, he started training primarily in Taekwondo. He had a Muay Thai background as well as Hapkido and some Judo. And so when he became a second degree black belt, he desired to own his own school, teach his own students. And we were married 10 years, 13 years by that time. And I said, you want to open your own school? Like, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how to run a martial arts school. So he goes, well, let's just try it. I'm like, okay, sure. So let's just try it. So we did. We found a building. We went on the radio. We had an open house. We enrolled 30 students, and I had no martial arts background whatsoever. In fact, I told this story at our Black Belt Spectacular a couple of weeks ago. And I said that my husband, when we were dating, did a little demo on myself and my sister. And it was something I was just uncomfortable with. And I said, I never want to do martial arts. No, you can just do martial arts. That's it. But so in 2003, we did open our school, and it was a year after we opened our school that I had decided, well, if I'm going to try to sell this to other people, I might want to know what I'm talking about. So I got on the mat, and getting on the mat in front of my husband, my children were training, my nephew was training, we had several other family members training, my sister was training, and it was just kind of like that family environment, and they inspired me to keep going and to do martial arts and to become stronger. I am now a 4th degree black belt, so I never quit, which was awesome. And actually did my 4th degree instructor testing in Florida with all of you in 2016. And so now, actually 2019, my bad. And so now we're 20 years into owning a school, just under 500 students training with us. And I see so many women joining our school, and they're joining because their kids are here. They're joining because their husband is here. They're joining because they've had things in their background. And I love it. And I talk with them all the time about my journey and about when I started and why I started. And I'm proud that they're here.
And Miss Anouthai, I think it's important for everybody to know that your husband made it clear he just wants to teach.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So you're running that school, right?
Yep.
And can you just share with us, I mean, if you don't want to, you don't have to, but can you share with us kind of what you're on track to do, or your students, or whatever you want to share, because I think it's inspiring.
Yeah. So for us, we've grown so much where we're at in our community, and our community is very aware of who we are. We're very involved in community relations, Habitat for Humanity, Boys and Girls Club, and different things around the area. My husband and I talk all the time. You know, what do we want to do? We've seen the success route. We've journeyed down that together. And right now we're just enjoying where we're at. We're enjoying what we've been able to see in our community. The next step, we keep being told, open a second school. And I said, sure, you just send me the instructors. I'll definitely open a second school. So it's been told to us several times that who we have teaching at our school is an inspiration to young students. And I'm talking like 4 and 5 and 6 years old. We have 18 and 19-year-old students, 18 and 19-year-old instructors teaching our classes. And to parents who see the maturity in those 19-year-olds and then find out what their ages are, they're blown away because of the maturity in those instructors. And I am able to have those conversations with those parents and say, that's exactly what we want to do. We want to continue to develop leaders, and we want to continue to put them in places that they can pass that on to other people in the community. So that's kind of where we're at. I would love to write a book at some point. Miss Rodriguez has definitely inspired me in that area with her different books that she's written. Two, just the one. And so I have a very unique story that's that some people know and others don't. And when I share it, people are like, are you writing a book? Because you need to. I'm like, someday.
And let me say, Chris, real quick, do you want to switch?
In a minute, yeah.
Okay.
I feel bad. I'm using my personal assistant's laptop right now, so she's like, she can't do anything. But we're good. Keep
Okay.
going.
So listen, and before I ask Miss Conner some questions, I will say that Miss Anouthai her school is probably in the top 5% of most successful schools in the nation. I mean, without saying anything, we'll just say, how many students do you have right now?
Yeah, we have 484 training that are committed coming on a weekly basis, and we have another 20 that are on trial.
So 484 active students, everybody. I think that says enough for right now, right? Nice job.
Thank you.
Miss Conner, how are you, ma'am?
Doing well, sir.
All right. So Miss Conner, what inspired you to start martial arts training?
My mom made me do it because I was
You and Chris are sisters.
Yeah. I was way too shy as a kid, so I started at 15, and yeah, it's been a slow journey, but eventually, I guess my confidence will boost. No, it's a lot better than I was back in high school. So I fell in love with the product, with martial arts, the entire industry, the family atmosphere that we have here. So when I started, it was a means to an end. I just wanted to gain that confidence. I wanted to get a little bit of a self-defense right before going to college. And then it came time to start applying, and there was the job opening here, and it was go away to school and stop martial arts or stay in Orlando. And I eventually went to UCF and stayed here and made a career out of it.
So Miss Conner, what was your first job in the martial arts industry?
I was an assistant instructor. About a year later, I was the after-school director. 2 years in, I was a program director. And then my instructor retired. He's now working for Vision. And so I took over as chief, and I was chief for about 7 or 8 years before going back into the program director seat, and grew the school from, where were we, 25 to 50 and beyond. It just kept growing, but I think we hit that 50 mark about 6 months in, and it just kept blossoming from there. So last year,
50,000 a month, by the way, not 50
Yeah, not 50 students.
So clear, right?
Not active count.
He took the school from 25,000 to 50. It's actually, you took a school from like 25,000 to about 70,000 when you promoted again, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, but
From
we'll stop at 50. I mean, 50 is a good number, right? But also, Miss Conner, this is important. Your job was program director, but you were also the manager of that school.
Yeah. And I was teaching the last class of every night. So I was in charge of the adult program. I was in charge of the demonstration team. So I still had my hand in teaching while I was doing all the office stuff. So I still had a bond with a lot of the students, and yeah, I miss them now that I'm up here, but I mean, it was a learning experience.
And this is important. And then what happened? Why did you leave the school?
I became a director of operations to teach other program directors how to run the office. To
teach all of the program directors in Orlando and train them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then why did you leave that position?
Now I'm on the MAIA team, so I can do it for all of the elite and CMA affiliates.
And do you work with program directors?
I work with everybody.
Exactly. That's where I was going. You work with program directors, you work with owners, you work with instructors. And the thing is I think that's inspiring, because I'm going to ask you one last question and then we'll do a round table. I'll open up the task. But why are you still, as someone who was what were you going to go to college for, Miss Conner?
I was pre-med before I switched my major just to get out of school so I could come here.
That's important. She was pre-med. Why are you still in the martial arts industry? Why are you still working as an employee? Why aren't you out running your own school? Why are you still here?
Especially after a year of running summer camp and after school.
That was rough. No, I mean, it's a family atmosphere here, it's just I can't imagine leaving the family.
Besides the family, do you think this is a good career path financially for you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And this is what I want to inspire everybody now. This is not about just inspiring other women in the martial arts industry. This is to inspire the men in the martial arts industry to understand the value that women bring in the martial arts industry. And by the way, like it or not, I believe men and women are different. And I believe men have certain areas where they're naturally strong. And I believe women have certain areas where they're naturally strong. And the thing is we couldn't be where we're at without the women in our company. And Miss Conner, the one thing I brought you on the team, and I said, what did I say? I said, we need you. Didn't I say that?
Yeah, because I'm organized.
And by the way, I had to almost try to convince you how bad we needed you on this part of the team to take you. And did I force you to leave the director position?
No, not at all.
No, because she was doing a phenomenal job there. But I told her how much we really needed her. Were there other men in the company that I could have asked?
Absolutely.
But I didn't. And the thing is you got to recognize the value in what these ladies bring. And I'll be honest, I think I have done, I've done a poor job, I think, stressing it because I've talked with clients, right? Not that I have neglected the value of women in the martial arts industry, but I think I've done a poor job at just being naive that I don't see a difference between men, women, black, white, Asian, this, that. I don't see a difference. I look at everybody as people. And as people, what I look for, and Cris, you mentioned this, is who is the best person for the job. And it doesn't matter to me what your gender is or what your race is. It's who is the best qualified. Now, last thing, and then I want to turn it over to Miss Conner. I'm going to say this for everybody. I know some people on here, they may know this, but as a whole, who male or female, as a whole, as a group, who is more in charge? How many more leaders? Do we have more women leaders in the schools or male leaders in the schools?
We have more female general managers than male.
Exactly. And I think next week is going to be men in the martial arts industry and how we are suffering.
We need to step up our game.
They need the help, I think. But my point is I think that's important for everybody to understand it. And I think it's important for any males in this industry that may own a school, that have a bravado to them, that feel like it's male dominated, and whatever the stigma is, you want to grow, you got to get out of your own way. And it's just, we need more women in the martial arts industry for sure. What do you want to add, Cris, Tass?
Well, I was gonna, with Miss Conner, right? Because you have school owners, you've got a school owner with another company, right? And having someone on, an employee is just a title at the end of the day, right? Like we all just have titles. So I just want to be clear about that. But I think a lot of people, and I've said this to you before, Metzger, because Miss Conner is one of several people. Miss Conner, how long have you been around with the company as far as working for the company or with the company?
Working for the company since 2005. Okay,
so 17 years, right? And there's a bunch of others that have been around that long. And Mr. Metzger and I have had conversations about, staff and all this other stuff. And I said, and I made the mistake one time, and I realized it when I said it, like, well, you don't get it, man. You're just lucky. You have all these people. Well, luck has nothing to do with it, right? What has to do with it is you made a case and why are you here? And the answer wasn't because of the job title. The answer wasn't because of the money. The answer was because of the family. And I think for people that are watching that want to build a great culture, number one, you have to find the right people. You got to find the right people that gel together, because sometimes you can bring someone in the organization that's just not a good fit, and that can tear everybody else apart, right? So the culture and the family atmosphere, is why you've been there. And I think the other thing is you have, in an organization, maybe Cris, you may have posted this the other day, but an organization has to be big enough to have space for everybody, right? And I think that's important to understand. But I just have a lot of respect for the fact that you've been around for so long and have had this wonderful path. I've called you asking you questions, right? I've called you asking you questions for for our martial arts school. So I just think it's, it's a very eclectic group of females, number one. Number two, I was going to do a quick survey on our school, our martial arts school, just from a student perspective. But if I had to guess, I think we're actually tipping the scale where we have more female participants in our schools than we actually do male. I think we're over that 50% of our students are females, girls, right? Ladies. And the other maybe 51%, 52% of those people are on the female side, and the other are on the male side. So it's an interesting trend as well, that we see that's happened in the martial arts industry, because 30 years ago when I started, it was 90%, men that were in the classes, or boys that were in the classes, right? So I think it's amazing. There's a lot of great opportunities in martial arts schools for, people that want to be career martial artists.
So I'm curious, for all three of you, starting with you, Cris, especially in BJJ, did you feel that either A, you were unfairly judged, or it was more of an uphill battle as a woman in the BJJ community?
When I started training in the late 90s and early 2000s, there were zero women. And honestly, because I was the only one, I felt like I actually got more attention from my instructor when I was on the mat. What was the uphill battle was just, and this would be, men or women, there weren't a lot of people my size, and it made it difficult to, train when you're just constantly training with people that are much bigger, larger, stronger than you. But I would actually argue that I got more attention because I was the only one, or there were few of us on the mat than the other way around. Now, I will say one of the things that I have learned as an instructor is when there are women on the mat, and I would hate this moment in the class, right? The instructor showing the technique, let's say he's showing you how to do the arm bar, and he'd say, okay, guys, go ahead and get a partner. I always felt like nobody would want to make eye contact with me, the girl on the mat. So as instructors, I would recommend for you, especially in the BJJ world, partner them up so they don't feel that way, because I literally felt like I was just the last kid picked on the dodgeball team. So.
Okay. And let me ask you this, as a business owner, did you feel like in any way, shape, or form you weren't taken as serious as a business owner in a BJJ school as a female in your Gracie pack?
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes people would come in and ask, well, where's your husband? It's like, no, well, I actually have a wife, and she's over there behind the front desk. But, it's pretty rare that there are, female-owned and operated BJJ schools out there. But I don't know. I've never looked at it like it's something I need to overcome. It's just I'm me, I'm Cris. I know these are my strengths. What does it matter if I'm a woman or a man? I know I can get these results. I know I can help these people. I will tell you from a woman's perspective, I think just being a smaller martial artist, I did specifically focus on growing kids programs because I am a woman. And it's just this thought process of, when I was fighting at 125 pounds, I'm 5'2", some D1 wrestler, 250-pound dude comes in and, wants to challenge me on the mat. So for me, I've always really focused on the kids, but I have a degree in education, which, helps to grow that as well. But yeah, there's definitely been times people come in and, where's your husband? No, I don't have one. He's not here.
And I'm going to come back to something, but Miss Anouthai, have you felt at all a stigma as being a female running a school with over 480 students here, or in the office, if you've had men come in, and has there ever been anything like that for you?
Just very rare. It usually happens when someone has a big ego and they just want to come in and they want to challenge the instructor, or something like that. Or I'll get phone calls. Can I talk with Master Chan? He's not available. Can I help you? Nope, I only want to talk with him. I'm like, okay, bye. So it hasn't been too much of an issue. I have been part of networking groups in the community. I've been part of different organizations in the community, and they see me, they see the school, they know that there is success there. They know that it's a partnership between my husband and I. And in the years past, when when my nephew was part of our school, and he was very much the face of our school in different community events and demonstrations and things like that, and he was the point person, they thought he was the owner, he was the guy running it, so they would ask for him primarily. When he stepped out and I became the face person, that no longer was something that people would ask for. They knew who to talk to, and that would be me. But really no setbacks.
How much have you grown since you've been the one running the school?
We doubled.
Thank you. Show's over.
That's incredible.
Hey, Ms. Conner, as someone who was a student, that was an assistant, and then a chief, and then a program director, and a manager, and a director, and now over licensing, and someone who said I started martial arts because I was shy and I needed confidence. Was it hard for you, and is it still hard for you to manage men or train or teach or coach males as opposed to females?
I mean, I had some guys in the program director classes last year as a director. It wasn't any more difficult than talking to the girls in the class. I mean, so no, teaching men on the mat wasn't intimidating at all. I actually really enjoy the adult class. I enjoy the adult class more than the kids class. And I never had any problems with it. I had more issues with the guys trying to compete with each other than with them trying to challenge me as an instructor. And then I would just have one of the bigger assistant instructors go and teach them a lesson. So.
But by the way, I want to say this, Cris, you brought up your height and weight. I didn't ask that. But watch this. Ms. Conner said she was still teaching like the competition team and the adult class. She was teaching the adult men in the class. Ms. Conner, what's your height and weight? You're about 6'2"?
I'm 5'4". I weigh 115.
5'4", 115 pounds. Now, ladies, here's what I want to say, and then Tass, I'd like you to interject, but here's the commonality here if you're not seeing it. Now I'm going to just be serious for a minute. But the one thing all you ladies have in common, and I know you guys for years, all of you, for many, many years, the belief in yourself and the confidence you really have in yourself. Ms. Conner can say she was shy, but Ms. Conner knows she knows her shit. I'm just going to say that. She knows and is confident in what she knows. You all have confidence and belief in yourself, which is why, for the most part, you didn't feel any adversity in being in a male-dominated activity. Let's just call it that, right? Miss Conner at 5'4", 115 pounds moves over to another school and says, I'm going to teach the adults. Before you went to that school, Miss Conner, we had a male teaching those adults, right?
Yes.
Okay. She goes in and says, I want to teach the adults. You got to have a lot of confidence when you see 200 plus pound males in that class. You just come into that school and say, guys, I'm going to be running your class now. You got to have confidence, and that exudes through to were you ever questioned? No. That's the lesson here, because all of you have become extremely successful on three different paths in this industry. You know, school owner, GrowPro, digital marketing, outside company. Not that you're, Cris, extremely successful in the Gracie Pack school, but what you've built a multi-million-dollar digital agency specifically catering to just the martial arts industry. Is that fair? It's just the martial arts industry, right? And then Ms. Conner, someone who started at probably $10 an hour. I mean, I don't know what it was back in 2005, to where you financially, you're making more than most owners, male owners, even female owners, doesn't matter. financially speaking, because you took this pathway. But all of you have taken a path to success, and you couldn't have done it without complete confidence and belief in yourself. And I think that's what's really important for everybody to understand here. And I don't want MAIA to ever come across that we don't believe this is a male-dominated industry in any way, shape, or form. But I think it's important that we publicly acknowledge that and showcase who we have behind the scenes. And by the way, not just behind the scenes, Cris, you're on stage. Conner, you're now on stage at the events. You're teaching people. There's no behind the scenes about it. It's just, again, we look at everybody as who are the best, and the best is right here. Tass, any thoughts?
I don't remember if it was Zig Ziglar or whoever said it, right? But you help enough other people get what they want, and you'll get what you want, right? And if you look at the commonalities on here, you think about the people that you're helping, that you're servicing. So Cris, not only in the martial arts school, but in the martial arts community with digital marketing, hundreds of schools. Miss Anouthai in her school, 480 plus students at the school, right? That's a lot of people to service, right? And then you talk about Miss Conner, who's, all the elite, all the CMA licensees, I mean, the entire industry, right? So helping all of these people. And I think sometimes, the difference, this is not saying that this is the case for all men or the case for all women, but the difference is sometimes females have this level of empathy and compassion and can become more relatable. And because they show how much they care and how much they want to give, right, in return, that's contagious and more people want to be a part of that. And I think that's a pretty big commonality with everybody that's on here is those are some unbelievable numbers, some unbelievable stories that you guys have. And I think, everybody in their own right is in a very successful spot. But even more important, I know all of you on here and nobody's satisfied. You're happy, but not satisfied. And you're continuing to climb to the top. The last question I have, just curious, we all have adversity in the business, right? Whether it's a disgruntled parent or a student or whatever it may be, right? Client, customer. Do you find that you have a challenge? Is it easier to talk to, we'll just say, a mom of a child, or is it easier to talk to a dad? Does it not matter? Is there a level of intimidation when maybe a dad or father comes in and has some adversity and wants to know why their kid didn't pass their test or whatever the reason? I'm just curious from your perspective if there's a difference at all. And any of you can answer that, by the way.
It just depends on personality. It doesn't really depend on gender. I mean, you get some friendly moms, friendly dads, and then you get some people that put on their Karen hats or, the dads that just have a stick up somewhere. So, right. I mean, it just depends more on personality than gender.
And what would you tell, whether it's another business owner or another female business owner, doesn't matter who it is, but when you have to deal with that adversity, right? And I think this is a personality thing as well, just for people in general, but I've seen it because my daughter's in a position, right, where she's program director at her school. And I've seen it happen where she gets very frustrated when there's some adversity, and sometimes because she's young, doesn't know how to handle that. And I've tried to give her the tools to be able to handle that, as opposed to coming to me and me going to handle that for her. And over the course of time, I've seen her grow in those situations. But what advice would you give to a young female in the industry that has to deal with adversity? Do they just kind of cower from it? Do they hit it head on? I mean, I don't know if you remember, when you had to deal with those challenges and problems, like, I'm sure there's some growing that's happened over the course of years, but how would you recommend someone deal with that? Ms. Conner, go ahead.
It's not an issue to go and ask for help on how to deal with this situation. I think that's what I always did. It's, hey, Mr. Perry, how would you handle this? This is what I just had to deal with. And then he'd coach me through, so I mean, it's okay to reach out and get somebody else's advice when you're dealing with a situation that makes you uncomfortable.
Okay, great. Ms. Cris.
I guess my answer would be like when I was younger and doing the sales for my instructor, and a situation like that arose, is I try not to take it personal. Like it's more on them than it is on me. So for me, it was just trying not to take it personal, which can be difficult, especially when you're younger.
And how do you not take it personal? Because I think that's easier said than done, right? I agree 100%, by the way. Like, I always talk about just, bury it by, let it go by, let it pass by. Don't accept that gift from them, right? But it's easy to say, it's hard to do. How do you not take it personal?
Yeah, it's like if we're in a room of 100 people and 99 people tell you you're awesome and one person tells you you stink, for whatever reason, human nature has us focus on that one negative. So for me, it would be really trying to focus more on all of the positive interactions that I'm having versus this, one negative interaction, and also being very specific about the language. I did a training on this last week. I had to kind of help my program director reprogram her language when she would say, all of the parents are saying this, or all of the parents are upset. Like, okay, give me names. And she would give me like 2 names. Okay, so 300 students, 2 names, like that's not all of the parents. Right. So trying to focus on the positive, which again is easier said than done. But when we're dealing with, and we deal with this in Grow Pro as well. I actually had to let a client go 2 weeks ago because on a Zoom, he cursed out my operations manager. You're just not going to be a part of our company then if that's how you treat us. That's his issue. That wasn't our issue. So those are just some things to keep in mind.
Right on. Mr. Anouthai, how about you?
Yeah, it hasn't come up too often as far as adversity, but when I do feel that is challenged and a parent comes in and they're upset, and it usually isn't like if it's female versus male. I can usually tell pretty quickly when somebody's in my office if they're going to be have kind of like an ego about it because they want to feel like they're right. And you kind of have to just kind of take the track of knowing what you know about your business and knowing who you are as a person and not taking those things personally. It was told to me a long time ago when we started our school and we were being mentored to grow thick skin because things will come at you. And if you let them land on you and marinate there, you're going to take that on as an offense. And so letting those things go by has become easier over time. So we've been in business now for 20 years and it's much easier to let that go by. One thing that I think the most is if somebody is intimidated by me because of a successful business that I run and they see all of the people in my school and the parents and things like that, they become very, they want to prove they're right. And they become intimidated by me. So I have to break that barrier wall down and I have to ask them questions and start to get them to open up a little bit more because if they're intimidated, they're going to be more on the defensive side, right? And so I want to break that down and I want them to hear who I am and hear who the school is before they make a judgment on whether they're right or if we can help them out some way.
That's great. I know what happens, and I make the comment. And by the way, this is probably not like, your human resource department approved, but I say sometimes the bully needs to get bullied, and what I mean by that is, if someone is attacking you verbally, number one, I think these are all really good lessons, right? You have everybody that's watching this. You have resources. Call, ask questions. How do you deal with this? What would you do? And get insight from other people that have been in that situation, number one. Number two, just like I say for self-defense, right? It's always okay to protect yourself, right? And what I mean by that is, obviously in the office, we're not going to be protecting ourselves physically, but verbally, it's okay to protect ourselves. And it's okay to stand up that person. And if they're saying something, tell them, we're not having this conversation if it's getting out of control or getting escalated. And I think, equipping people in general, whether male or female, equipping people with the proper way to handle adversity, I think is an important thing because it can be very intimidating regardless of gender. And I think experience really, over time, experience helps with those things. I actually entertain the idea of when someone's upset and they're frustrated, because I, for some reason, enjoy having those conversations, right? So I appreciate all of your insight. Congratulations to all of you on your success and your continued success. I think we got another question over in the sidebar there.
Well, I think we answered Mr. Johnson's question. I kind of think your approach kind of would relate to that. But I want to say this, by the way. Yes, we know Cris owns a Gracie pack. When did you get your black belt in jiu-jitsu, Cris?
2012.
2012. Miss Anouthai just talked about, she got her 4th degree.
Yep. 4th degree black belt. Yeah.
In 2019.
Yes.
But we didn't bring up Miss Conner. Miss Conner, what in karate, in our system, what belt are you?
5th degree.
5th degree black belt. And what about in Brazilian jiu-jitsu?
Purple belt.
Purple belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and still training. We're all family. We're all martial artists. Again, female, male, doesn't matter. We're martial artists, and you guys are the cream of the crop. And we gotta inspire any women that feel like it's a struggle, or, by the way, any women in this industry that will use that as an excuse. It's not. It's about belief and confidence. And we got to educate the male-dominated part of this industry to let them know that if you want to reach maximum success, we need women and we need men, and we all need to bring it together. Yes, ma'am, Miss Anouthai.
I just also want to say too that being a woman in business is something that I never aspired to, but it's something that did come into my life path, and I embraced it 100%. But it didn't come without being able to network with other school owners and other people in the same industry. Without having that network, without having the ability to bounce questions off or share my emotions with people, because my husband doesn't always want to hear my emotions, right? But being able to share that with other people and get feedback, how either they handled it or how what suggestions they have for handling different things, I was able to grow as a person. And then I was able to grow the school here with my husband and grow the team that's here, and take what in our school, our daughter is our head instructor, and she was a very shy individual. We were able to nurture her and push her outside of the nest a little bit, and able to kind of show her through MAIA what else is possible, especially with her. And she has kind of gone through a battleground in her life and martial arts, but not just martial arts. It's the network of people that she's been able to grow and expand into her network, into her contact sphere as a woman. And I love that. I don't think that we say that often enough, that, it takes a village to raise a child, but it is the same concept when you're in business. You need your network of people. And that's what MAIA has done for me personally, but also for my business, my husband and I, and then just our school in general. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for being on here. And I know you inspired both men and women from this show today. And I couldn't be more proud of all of you, honestly. And Cris, I don't say it enough, but I'm extremely proud of you.
Mr. Metzger is working on my top love language, which is words of affirmation.
Nice.
And here's where I told her. She was in my office yesterday, and I'll say this to all of you right now watching around the world. Perry, are we broadcasting around the world? All right. That phrase, "it goes without saying," that's my language, and it goes without saying how much respect and admiration I have for all of you watching and all of you in our industry. And I got to work on different love languages, such as words of affirmation, and be more vocal about it. So look,
I'm glad she wasn't on our call the other night, because that would not have been fun for her.
Yes.
I did not receive words of affirmation.
Yeah, sorry, but I will say this. For those of you watching, be on the lookout. March 24th and 5th in Orlando. the My Elite All Systems Go event. Cannot wait. It's yet another level up of what we're doing, what we're bringing, and huge things happening for 2023. And I'm very, very excited about it. So be on the lookout for that. We'd love you to have come and be part of this family, even if it's for one weekend. I'm not saying be part of the family and sign up for any MAIA products or services. I'm saying come spend the weekend with us, and I promise you, you will leave inspired, you will leave with knowledge, and you will leave with actionable items that you can immediately go into your school. And if nothing else, being around people like Miss Anouthai, Miss Conner, and Miss Rodriguez here, that by itself, and the 300 plus other people, like you guys said, it's family. I think you see what Miss Conner said, why she's still in this company. That's very important to us. Family, we have each other's backs. We're going to support each other, and we're going to take this industry up with us. So thank you. And Master Perez, look, give me a spot, he's saying. This is women only, Master Perez. You know, Mr. Herb Perez, unbelievable loyal friend. Any parting words before we sign off?
I mean, Metz, I know you were recently asked how come there aren't more women speaking, and it wasn't just at our event. I mean, if you look at the majority of all of the events in the martial arts industry, you know, there's typically a lot more male speakers than there are women speakers. And when we were in Orlando yesterday, we got to see Mr. J speak, and a big part of his presentation was not waiting for opportunities to come. It's creating those opportunities. So if you are a woman in this industry and you want to be a consultant and you have the experience to back it up, right? Because that was a big takeaway, Metz, when you and I were talking about, I don't care if you're a guy or a girl up on the stage. I just want whoever is the best on the stage. And for those women in this industry, you can absolutely create these opportunities, but what you can't do, whether you're a man or a woman in life, is sit back and wait for them to come.
By the way, and Chris, I'm glad you brought that up and said that, but I also will say that as a guest speaker, we're going to have Jay McGowan at the event, and his topic will be creating, not waiting on opportunities. And this is just going to be a big change and something for all the clients, but you'll see a little video and a little snippet, and we're going to put that out there with some of the topics that are going to be covered March, again, 24th and 5th in Orlando. But I am excited. Anything we can do to help this industry, which has made all of you and me, right? It doesn't matter what we go on and do. I can tell you right now, Silverman and I, you all know, we have a huge real estate portfolio. Why am I on here? Because we would not have that without the martial arts industry. We just wouldn't. Chris would not have a digital. Is it fair to say you would not have a digital marketing agency today if you weren't in the martial arts industry? Right? Miss Conner would be some boring doctor right now if it wasn't for the martial arts industry, right? And Miss Anouthai, you certainly wouldn't have this successful business right now, the martial arts school, right? Obviously, if
I would probably be doing paycheck to paycheck still.
So my point is we all owe this industry, and I'm going to continue till the day I die, doing everything I can to elevate it and help everybody that I can, even though my approach isn't always good. It's a little abrasive sometimes, wouldn't you say, Chris?
Of course, she'll agree with you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Thank you, gals.
Thank you, ladies.
Appreciate everybody.
Take care.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.